New reporting about the baby formula shortage is coming to light. And it turns out a whistleblower report about safety concerns at the Abbott factory in Michigan were sent to the FDA back in October 2020, but didn't reach any FDA officials for 4 months. This is according to the Washington Post. The 34-page long report didn't reach the FDA's Deputy Commissioner for Food Policy, Frank Yanis, until one baby had already died and 2 others were hospitalized after consuming formula from the Abbott plant.
This caused the factory to close down and receive a full inspection by the FDA. FDA Commissioner Dr. Robert Califf told a House panel yesterday that the agency found a leaking roof, water pooled on the floor, cracks in production equipment, but he also acknowledged that the agency's response was too slow.
The plant is expected to reopen in early June, with formula expected to roll out shortly after. Yesterday, 120,000 pounds of baby formula was shipped to the U.S. from Europe under the administration's operation to ease the supply shortages, adding to another shipment of nearly 80,000 pounds over the weekend. So, the big question is, why were they so slow to get the report and actually investigate the plant?
Well, there was some indication when I did my radar about this a couple of weeks ago now that there was significant backlogs caused by some funding issues at the FDA. It does seem like they have a lot on their plate in the same way that a lot of public offices, like public defenders' offices, have a caseload that's bigger than the number of staff that they have. Now, it also could just be an individual negligence issue where some employee had a stack of papers on their desk that they didn't get to just because they didn't get to it and not because they were overworked or stretched too thin. But it's galling either way, and I hope we learn some more details about this going forward.
Yeah. Apparently, Yanis didn't even know. I'm looking at the Washington Post. He's complained to the Washington Post that he did not learn about the complaint until 4 months later, after one of the infants had already died and 2 others were hospitalized. He says, it wasn't sent to me, it wasn't shared with me internally. How does this happen? This is him ranting to the Washington Post. That's pretty bad.
Well, it does. As Briahna was, so I'm curious about your take on this, Robby, because as Briahna was just alluding to, they need more funding. So the FDA needs more funding to hire more people to be able to ensure that they can get to all of the issues that they need to get to, rather than letting these complaints
That's just always the solution. And when the police say we can't do our jobs without more funding, until we can't bring down crime, until you hire a bunch more of us, we say, okay, you're rewarded for doing a bad job. Here's more funding.
The difference is we have, 100 years of police funding history to look back at and see what the correlation is between actually increasing police funding and lowering crime. And look, I'm completely open. Like I said, we don't know exactly what happened in this particular instance. If it is that there is some administrative procedure that doesn't allow things to escalate up the ranks efficiently in the FDA, then that obviously should be changed, and that's not a funding issue. Right. If there is some personnel reporting issues that need to be changed, then that's a change that doesn't require more funding.
I just don't think there's if law enforcement is bad at their jobs and corrupt and lazy and there's tons of bloat, I don't think there's anything specific to law enforcement that makes it that way. Actually, conservatives believe the opposite, right? They believe government is incompetent and bad, and government employees, that it's wasteful and they're not doing their jobs correctly, and they shouldn't get more funding. Except for law enforcement, they're perfect. Don't say anything bad about them. Are heroes, every one of them. I think those same incompetencies, inadequacies are probably prevalent in basically every government department and program.
Right, but I don't think that the argument is that the problems that exist in the world that cause people to start police departments should just be left to run rampant on their own because there are these problems with the police. The question is whether or not you change the police in some meaningful way, whether that's characterized as, defunding or abolishing them. But there's obviously needs that need to be met. And some of those needs are going to require people that have arms to intervene in situations like we just saw earlier this week, at the elementary school shooting. And many others are going to require police, some kind of person to be mobilized in more mental health capacities, social work capacities, et cetera. And I think it's perfectly fair to say we're not talking about ignoring the problem, which is, I think, sometimes what laissez-faire libertarian approach ends up with, more to say, okay, there are real issues here with the institution that's been created to address the problem. Let's radically change the institution. Let's meaningfully change the institution. I'm certainly not committed to keeping the FDA exactly like it is for here on out. There are obviously some problems that I'd like to know more about. What kind of reforms, be they funding reforms or other kind of reforms, would help it to do its job better? Because the job is needed.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because, on one side, the progressive argument when it comes to policing has been less funding would actually solve the problem, which is that's like what Robby would say.
I'm saying more funding won't solve the problem. I don't know if less funding will. I know it's frustrating. Probably people listening to me get frustrated. I think a lot of our problems cannot be solved, and we're deluding ourselves if we think more government. But go ahead, Kim. I cut you off. Sorry.
Well, but it's still, it's interesting because that is more of a libertarian way of thinking, which is if we let go of the funding, if we let, then maybe we would we'd solve these problems in some way because a lot of the corruption is in all of the funding.
Right.
And then at the same time, the same crowd would say, well, we need to increase funding in programs such as, like the FDA or other regulatory bodies in order to ensure safety and whatnot. And so it's interesting to see both sides of this, where then you've got on the right people saying, no, we need more police funding. That's how we solve the problems. But then when it comes to wanting to fund any other organization or regulatory body, it's like, oh, no, we can't have more funding for that. Government is the problem. So I'm just trying to figure out both sides of this. Like, which is it?
Well, Kim,
we got Kim in the middle again.
It's not inconsistent, though, because the people who want to, let's say, defund the police are saying to redirect that money into social programs that could actually help address the causes of crime, right? So it's not the same. It's not the same as what libertarians are doing, which is to say, I have an ideological commitment to not funding things regardless of what the impacts are. People on the left generally are saying, I don't have an ideological commitment to funding things more. I think I've said maybe 3 or 4 times in this segment alone, hey, if the funding issue won't solve what's going on at the FDA, do other kinds of things. What I want is to figure out solutions that work. And if at the end of the day, the FDA is saying we don't have the personnel to get through these reports, the mail that is coming through us, then hey, let's let them hire more personnel. If the issue is internal and that someone should have just been doing their job, then maybe there needs to be some personnel changes and some institutional changes inside to make sure the reporting comes through. But defund the police isn't a call to get rid of funding. It's to stop funding something that doesn't work and to shift funds into policies that do.
I would say for me it's ideological, but it's ideological. My ideology is shaped by the practicality of it, right? If I thought that allocating a lot more funding to the police, for instance, would bring down a crime, or hiring a lot more cops would solve a lot of the problems I'm seeing, that would probably suggest to me that, well, then probably it works with other government programs, and that like my ideology would change. I go, okay, well, my ideology has to change because actually we need to give government more resources to solve all these problems. My ideology is the way it is because I see the government failing to solve lots of problems regardless of the amount of funding it gets. Most government agencies, programs get more funding over time regardless of any change in administration. Some are defunded, but mostly they just get more funding.
There was a huge defunding wave in the 1980s that people haven't
Education funding has never gone down one iota, and it hasn't improved schools at all.
The country gets bigger and there are more kids, and of course everything goes up.
Pupil funding goes up.
Wages have gone up over time, even though obviously there's been a huge gap in the proportion that they've gone up. So I think those numbers are a little misleading.
Everything the government touches turns to ash.
Okay.
I'm just here trying to instigate fights. I was hoping somebody would throw a pen.
We did have a little bit of, we had some tense stuff today on the show, but very heated topics, obviously. This one a little more fun, but all right, well, we'll have more Rising after this.